Matt Macon's here. Time for a daily shower. Again, the daily shower, those weather headlines coming your way and things that you may need to prepare for. So in today's daily shower, what are we chatting about? Frost and freeze areas top of mind as we come out of the growing season. We'll chat on that. Hazards across North America. A lot of wind in British Columbia for one example. Threats on the way down to the southern parts of the states will be heavy rainfall and will spread thunderstorms, even some snow across the country. So a lot to go through. Let's get started. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to watch the video, stay in tune with weather from a scientific background here. I really appreciate the likes, the subscriptions, the comments. Leave them all down in here. Would love to have your input as we go through this daily shower today and any areas that you may want me to focus on going forward. Also, don't forget Winter Outlook, La Nina. Those videos are on my channel. Check those out. As I go through the next few moments, going to try to hit all of these regional areas from the Pacific Northwest to the Southeast, the Northeast. We try to include everybody here with weather headlines that may be coming your way. For the country as a whole, for the northern plains down into the Rockies, we have frost and freeze areas. So if you have the potential for a freeze, it's colorized on the map, covering most of the northern plains into the Rockies, Denver down to Santa Fe. Be careful of a potential first frost, if not freeze, on the way later this week, around Chicago and then to the Northeast. This is part of a weather maker that's creating headlines across North America. Strong wind and heavy precip in portions of Alaska. Very strong wind in British Columbia on Monday. That wind is pushing in colder temperatures, which will impact much of the country, especially the Great Lakes, and will also spread some rainfall ahead of that cold air. Watch with me now as we do focus on that cold front. It's going to originate over the Pacific Northwest and push on down to the south. There's actually two cold fronts on the way for the country, but the first one happens as we begin that animation. It's creating the very strong wind in areas of British Columbia. It's going to be driving colder temperatures, mostly skirting the northern Rockies, then diving down toward the Great Lakes, really focusing though on Great Lakes, Ohio, Tennessee valleys, and the New England states, which will be colder than average as we go throughout the course of this week into next. Much warmer conditions, warmer colors on the map, stay over the west and over the southern plains. I'll be hitting most on that topic in just a moment as we look at the ocean conditions which are driving these cold fronts. And we have chances for thunderstorms, especially across the eastern half of the country. Most of the eastern half of the country, I should say. Again, generic thunderstorms with low-end potential for hail or wind. Mostly going to get you the rainfall. Unrelated to that cold front will be heavy areas of moisture from California, Arizona, New Mexico, into parts of Texas. That is associated with a different system, not the cold front, but excessive rainfall and flooding possible across the southwest and the south. All right, so how much rainfall? We focused on the south and the southwest with heavy rainfall, but there's some pockets here of other heavier rainfall areas. So the southeast, Montgomery, Atlanta, to Savannah, Georgia. We're going to be coming in over an inch of total rainfall on the way. Heaviest rainfall does skirt around Florida, but there's still additional rainfall on the way to Florida as they're trying to clean up from the hurricane. Tragic situation down there, but at least the bullseye of heaviest rainfall is on either side of Florida. Other areas of heavy precip will be around the Great Lakes, moving into New England, Maritimes of Canada. We're going to be looking at totals here, Burlington, Augusta, Quebec, on up to the north and east. These totals are going to be right around 2 inches, if not greater. So quite a bit of rainfall headed toward the northeast. And again, going to stay colder than average as this cold front swings on through to drive in the colder than average conditions. It's that time of the year, as we mentioned cold fronts, we will be chatting more and more about impactful snowfall. In terms of frozen precip this time, sure, the Sierras may catch a little bit of a snowfall, but that's going to be limited impact there. Otherwise, we have the Rockies, mostly northern Rockies from, say, Glacier, close to it, on down toward Yellowstone. We have some limited to minor impact here for travelers with some snowfall coming into these portions of the Rockies during the course of this week. I mentioned just a moment ago about looking at the ocean conditions and what's driving this weather pattern across the country. What's driving these cold fronts to skirt the north and the west and then really kind of impact the north and east areas. Well, it's ocean conditions. We still have La Nina highlighted in these boxes. La Nina has not changed. I'll have a video update on La Nina and her outlook coming up in several days. But as far as the ocean conditions here, northern Pacific, so let's zoom the map in here. Very warm sea surface conditions across the northern Pacific. What this means or implies is that high pressure is dominating here. That's driving the storms through Alaska, coastal Alaska, the peninsula, and the panhandle. And as we go into British Columbia, the storms start to dive southward, kind of moving right along the Rockies and move east. Until we displace this warmth, we're going to keep that ridge in place. That's going to drive the storms away from the west coast. So we need to cool this area of ocean off, or try to push some of that warmer sea surface temperature conditions off to the west before we break down that ridge and before we start to bring in moisture for the Pacific Northwest. Ocean conditions take a long time to change. So this pattern across the country where the west is mostly warm and mostly dry with more of the action for the northern plains and the eastern U.S., that pattern will certainly continue as we go throughout the next several weeks. So I just mentioned La Nina and its impact on North America. Let's look across the globe, some of the hazards that will be coming through. Wet areas in Asia all the way down in Australia. Very wet period of time for Australia. It's one of very few continents without drought conditions. We have Central America going to catch quite a bit of rainfall. Parts of Brazil and South America will too. These yellow areas down close to Central America, off into the Gulf and the Caribbean, as well as here out closer to Southeast Asia and Japan. Those areas may see tropical cyclone development during the course of the week. Of course, for my interest, looking at mostly western North America, any sort of typhoon activity that develops here may be drawn into the storm flow and eventually impact Alaska. So we watch this area closely for any future impacts weeks down the road that may be hitting Alaska, western Canada, and also driving colder temperatures into the U.S. So that's your daily shower this time. Again, the weather headlines that may send weather your way to impact you during the course of this week or well down the road. We're going to continue with these daily showers, but in some of the next weather updates, probably talk more about La Nina and how my winter outlook is panning out so far. You can find my La Nina video, the last one, and my winter outlook on my channel. Hope you guys have a great day. Matt Makins here. That's this Daily Shower.